Ever wish you could just hit record on your brain and remember everything you see and hear?
Like having a superpower. Total recall.
Right. Well, today we're talking about memory and how to unlock yours.
We're going deep on memory techniques with Kevin Horsley and his book, Unlimited Memory. This isn't about some superhuman ability, by the way.
No, not like those photographic memory claims you sometimes hear.
Nope. Horsley actually says that anyone can train their memory. It's all about learning the right techniques.
And a lot of what we think about memory is wrong anyway. Like how much we actually retain from school, for example. Kind of a scary thought.
It is a little scary when you think about it. Horsley talks about how people only retain something like 3 weeks of material after years of formal education. 3 weeks. That's it.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
All that for 3 weeks? You'd think after all that time studying.
You'd think. I mean, I can barely remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, let alone high school chemistry.
Exactly. So if that's the case, no wonder it's so hard to remember names and dates and, well, anything really.
It's not that we're getting more forgetful, it's that we never learned how to really remember things properly in the first place.
Okay, so how do we fix it? How do we get to unlimited memory?
Well, Horsley has a method. He calls it the C method, and it's all about transforming information into something more engaging and memorable.
C method? I like it. It's catchy. So instead of dry facts and figures, it's more about...
It's about creating vivid mental movies instead of those boring textbook pages.
Okay, so less rote memorization and more summer blockbuster inside our heads.
That's the idea. And the C part stands for senses, exaggerate, and energize. Basically, you want to engage all of your senses when you are trying to remember something.
So give me an example. How does that work in real life?
Let's say you want to remember that apples are a good source of fiber, right?
Okay, sounds pretty basic.
Instead of just repeating those words over and over, try picturing yourself biting into a big, juicy apple. Imagine the taste, the smell, the feeling of it.
Okay, now I'm getting hungry. But I see what you mean.
Right. It's a lot more vivid than just reading the words apple and fiber on a page. And that's just the first step, senses.
There's more, so what's next?
Next is exaggerate. Make that apple we were just talking about absolutely enormous. Picture a skyscraper-tall apple, maybe even with a giant, toothy grin, happily chomping on a building made of fiber bars.
Okay, now you were talking my language. That's an image my brain won't forget anytime soon.
See? It works. And lastly, you need to energize it.
Energize it. So we're adding some special effects to this mental movie.
Exactly. Imagine that giant apple strutting down the street, maybe wearing a tiny top hat, doing a little tap dance. The more outlandish, the more action-packed, the better.
So the key takeaway here is if you want to remember something, make it weird.
Essentially, yes. Our brains love novelty. The more senses you engage, the more emotions you evoke, the more memorable it becomes.
This is great. I am already starting to see how this could be helpful. But is there really science to back this up?
Absolutely. It all comes down to how our brains actually form memories. When we experience something vividly, using all of our senses, creating a story, well, we activate more areas of our brain, and the more areas that are involved, the stronger the memory becomes.
Fascinating. So it's like giving our brains a workout.
Exactly. You use it or you lose it.
Okay, so I'm picturing all these crazy images, but where do I put them? It's like my brain is this huge empty warehouse right now.
I know, right? You've got all this great stuff, but no organization.
Exactly.
Well, Horsley talks about this too. He says we need to create a memory palace.
A memory palace. Sounds fancy.
It sounds more complicated than it is. It's basically just a way to organize information in your mind by using a place you know really well.
Like a real place.
Yeah, like your house or your childhood home or even your daily commute. Any place you can visualize clearly.
Okay, I think I am following. So if I want to remember something,
you mentally place it somewhere in your memory palace.
Got it. So going back to our giant apple, I could put that on the doorstep of my childhood home, right?
Exactly. Or maybe you're picturing that apple in your old treehouse. The important thing is that you're attaching the information to a specific location.
It's like I'm creating a scavenger hunt for my own brain. I love it.
And the reason this works is because our brains are already wired for spatial memory. We're really good at remembering places.
That's so true. I can still navigate my way around my elementary school, and I haven't been there in years.
Exactly. So we're just tapping into that existing ability. But you know, memory isn't just about remembering facts and figures. What about things like names? I feel like I'm constantly forgetting people's names.
Me too. It's so awkward.
It happens to everyone. And there are techniques for this too. Horsley calls them the 4 C's.
4 C's. Okay, I am ready. Hit me with it.
The first one is concentrate. Sounds obvious, But a lot of times when we're meeting someone new, we're not really paying attention to their name. We're too busy thinking about what we're going to say next.
So true. My mind goes a mile a minute in those situations.
So the key is to really focus when you hear their name, maybe even repeat it back to them. It's nice to meet you, Sarah. Something like that.
Okay, simple enough. What's next?
The next C is create. Remember how we were talking about creating those vivid images?
Yeah, the weirder the better, right?
Exactly. Well, you can do the same thing with names. So let's say you meet someone named David, and he has really bright blue eyes. You could imagine David Bowie with those piercing blue eyes wearing a name tag that says David.
Okay, now that is an image that would definitely stick with me.
See? It works. And the next C is connect. So we've got this great image of David Bowie.
With the blue eyes and the name tag.
Right. Now we want to connect that image to something else we already know. Maybe this new David reminds you of your Uncle David, who happens to be a huge David Bowie fan.
So I could imagine them, like, hanging out together, wearing matching lightning bolt makeup.
Exactly. You're building a bridge between this new information and something that's already anchored in your memory.
I'm starting to realize that a lot of this is about making connections, isn't it?
It is. Our brains love patterns and connections. And the last C is continuous use.
Continuous use. So I need to, like, carry around a picture of David Bowie in my wallet.
No, not exactly. Continuous use just means finding ways to actively recall the name and the image. Maybe you review it in your head a few times after you meet someone new. Or you could try working their name into conversation.
So it's like anything else, really. The more you practice, the better you get.
Exactly. It's all about training your memory. But we've covered a lot of ground here. Facts, names.
Don't tell me. There's more.
Oh, there's always more to learn. We haven't even touched on numbers yet. What about remembering dates or phone numbers or all those important statistics? Numbers. They're a whole other beast, aren't they?
You can say that again. Phone numbers, historical dates, those long security codes.
They just seem to slip right out of our heads. But what if I told you that numbers can actually be easier to remember than words?
Easier. How is that even possible? Numbers are my worst enemy.
It all comes down to how we encode them in our brains. We're trying to memorize these abstract symbols when our brains are much better at remembering images and stories.
Okay, that tracks with what we've been talking about. So how do we turn numbers into, like, a mental movie?
Horsley calls it the number code. Basically, each number, 0 through 9, gets linked to a few letters based on its shape or the sound it makes.
A number code? I'm intrigued. Give me an example.
Okay, let's take the number 0. It's round, right? Like an O.
Makes sense.
So we can link it to letters like O, C, or S, because it also kind of makes that hissing S sound.
Like a tire losing air. I can see that. So 0 is O, C, or S. Got it.
You're getting it. It takes a little practice to get the hang of the code, but once you do, you can use it to quickly turn any number into a word.
Okay, show me how it works in action. What about a year like 1969, the moon landing?
Perfect example. Now, instead of trying to remember all 4 digits of the year, we can focus on the last 3. 969.
Okay, so 969. Let me see if I can crack this code. 9 is B or P, 6 is SH, and 9 again. So we have BSHP. Now what?
You just sound it out. Add some vowels to make it easier to say, and you get bishop.
Bishop. So instead of 1969, it's Bishop landing on the moon. Now that is an image I won't forget.
Exactly. And because our brains love to make connections, you can even imagine this bishop planting a flag on the moon, maybe with a little lunar rover parked next to him.
This is amazing. Numbers just became so much more fun. But it seems like it would take some serious practice to get good at this.
It does take practice, just like anything else. But the more you use these techniques, the more automatic they become.
It's like learning a new language.
Exactly. And like learning a new language, the key is to start small, be patient with yourself, and celebrate those aha moments when they happen.
So no more beating myself up for forgetting where I parked my car. There's hope for me yet.
There's hope for all of us.
Yeah.
The truth is, we all have incredible memories just waiting to be unlocked.
This has been a fascinating deep dive into the world of memory. I feel like I've learned so much.
Me too. It's amazing what we're capable of when we understand how our brains work and start using the right techniques.
And who knows, maybe with a little practice, we can all have those unlimited memories we've been dreaming of.
It's worth a shot.
That's right. So until next time, keep those mental movies rolling, and remember, the possibilities are truly limitless.